All right, today we are on a mission to fix a problem that almost every Rx8 owner struggles with, and no, it's not low compression. For whatever reason, almost all Rx8 airbags for the passenger dash here get this cracking problem. I don't know if it was the kind of plastic Mazda used or what it was, but both S1 and S2 models have this issue. And really the only solution I've seen so far is to totally replace this whole piece. And since this is such a common problem, it's really hard to find these pieces, and whenever they are up for sale, they usually go fast and it's a lot of money to buy one. I've seen them for $600-700 and they usually sell right away. And that's an expensive repair, especially for the value that these cars are at right now. You can pick up S1s for $2,000 all day, so buying almost a $1,000 airbag is a lot of money. I've actually had two of these cars, and both of them had this problem. The first one was nowhere near as bad as this, and I just covered it with some Alcantara, and that was able to fix it. But this one, I want to go a different route with it. The Alcantara was all right, but it wasn't my favorite, so I've got a better solution for this one, I think. So we're going to try that out today. These and sandpaper are going to be the only products I'm going to be using to fix this. I picked up Plasti-Dip as a way to cover up everything we're going to do. I'll explain that in a little bit. And then I also have some plastic epoxy. You don't have to use this exact stuff. Just make sure whatever you're using is both sandable and can withstand both high and low temperatures. This stuff says it can go from -10 degrees Fahrenheit to 180. So since your car will be sitting in the sun, or if where you live is cold, you want to make sure that whatever you're using can withstand those temperatures. All right, the first thing we're going to do here is take out the airbag, but before you touch any airbags in the car, you always want to make sure you follow the manufacturer's their recommended process for whenever you're working on the airbags. For Mazda, they say just go ahead and disconnect the negative battery terminal and leave it for about 10 minutes to let any residual power in the system drain out, and then you're good to go with messing with the airbags. You don't want those to accidentally deploy. The negative battery terminal just has this little 10mm nut I'm going to loosen up, and then we'll pull it off. All right, and once that's off, you want to go ahead and leave it for about 10 minutes so all the residual power in the system can drain. While we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and start removing this glove department, because that's going to be the next step before we can get to the bolts that hold the airbag in. So to do this, you just lower down the glove box, and then you'll have to squeeze in both sides at the same time. I'll have to put the camera down to do that, but there's two tabs, and then the glove department will open down even further. All right, once you've got it totally open like this with these two tabs here on the side that you had to squeeze in, you've got this arm here that you'll have to disconnect. That's just there so that the glove box doesn't just like completely fall whenever you open it. It slowly lets it down. There's just a plastic tab there you can kind of see. You'll just pry that off with a screwdriver or something. Be careful not to break it. All right, I used a flathead to pop that off. Once that's off, the glove department will open the rest of the way. Everything you've got in it will probably fall out. And then back here on the pivot point on both sides, once the glove box is opened like all the way down, you should just be able to pop that off on both sides. So just pull it, and the same on the other side, and your glove box is out. With the glove box out of the way, and if you've waited the 10 minutes, you can start working on the airbag. So there's just one clip right here to disconnect. I like to pull it off of the clip it's on. It makes it a lot easier to disconnect it. If you've been hitting the gym, you can probably just pull that off. If you're like me, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers to get in here. Underneath it there, that gray pin, you can squeeze that and that'll pull it out. That's the piece right there. All right, with that tab undone, you can pull this all the way out so it's easier to work on. And then for this clip, this tan part on the top, you can just kind of slide back all the way down, and that's what pulls the clip apart. And then your airbag is disconnected. I like to do that first because then you can pull this out of the way. And then you get easier access to these two bolts here, which are what holds the whole dash pad in. These are just 10mm bolts you can pop off. Once those two bolts are out, the airbag should pop out. It's kind of held in with clips. Just pull it free, and then you can remove the whole thing. Okay, so with the airbag out, you can kind of see the cracks a little better. This here, that there, and this line here, the big cracks, that's actually where the plastic is just a little bit thinner. The airbag comes out of here, and this makes it so that there's two flaps for the airbag to come out of, so it can deploy without anything in its way. So doing any kind of modification to this can prevent the airbag from coming out the way it's intended to. Which can be very dangerous in any event of a crash where the airbag would be needed. So if you're modifying this, keep that in mind. Do it at your own risk. It's not recommended to modify this in any way that could potentially put any passengers at risk. The way I'm doing it, I don't think I should have any problems with the airbag deploying improperly. But again, I don't have a way to test that, so I can't recommend that anyone else does this. So again, do this at your own risk. That being said, the first step for me here is going to be sanding this as smooth as I can get it, since some of these cracks have kind of peeled up a little bit, making the surface uneven. We're gonna try and get this all flat again. So I've got a DA here. I'm just gonna start with some 60 grit sandpaper, just to see how that does. We might have to go lower, might have to go higher. We'll just see. All right, so at this point, I think I've sanded down most of the high points. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling all of these cracks with the plastic epoxy that I have. Once that's all filled in and cured, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the DA again to sand it smooth once more. All right, so this is what it's looking like after using the entire first tube of epoxy. I'm gonna have to use another one because it does look like I didn't have enough epoxy for all the cracks. And it looks like some of them are gonna need filled again. I didn't use the epoxy very efficiently. I think if I did a better job of that, I might be able to get away with one. But like, as you can see here, that crack in the middle has a lot of epoxy all around it instead of in it, which is also going to make it more hard to sand. But so if you were a little more careful than I was, you might be able to get away with it, or if your dash is not as bad as mine was. So I'm going to let this fully cure, sand it before putting another coat of epoxy on. All right, I just finished my first round of sanding here before I lay down some more epoxy. It looks pretty bad right now, but that's just because it's kind of different colors. But you can see kind of where the cracks are all filled in, and it feels pretty smooth. I started off with 80 grit and then moved down to 120, but I've still got over here, I didn't get to finish filling it all in before I ran out of epoxy. So I'm going to go ahead and get more of that to fill in the rest. And then I still need to go around and finish getting rid of all of this texture just to make it nice and uniform. And again, I was using my, my DA here. You don't have to use any power sander or anything, but it's probably worth the investment if you can just get a cheap one, because sanding all of this by hand would not be any fun. Although stuff like around here, I'm going to use just normal sandpaper. All right, so here's what it's looking like after sanding with the second coat of epoxy. I don't think it's gonna turn out 100% perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. I think I'll still be happy with it. It's pretty smooth, although there is like a few spots, like especially like, I think there's like 1 or 2 cracks down here I might have missed. And then there does look like there's probably gonna be a little bit of texture still. But I'm thinking the paint's probably gonna cover most of it up, and it'll still look 100 times better than it was. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll with this for now. We'll lay down some coats of the plastic dip. I laid a few coats down of the plastic dip on the bottom section here and wasn't totally happy with it, so I decided to go with the new method. All right, so since I wasn't quite happy with the finish from just the plastic dip and stuff, I don't think I put enough work into the sanding and everything. I'm gonna try this stuff here that I ordered off of Amazon. It's just a little flocking kit. If you don't know what flocking is, I'll show you. But I think this is gonna cover up all my imperfections, and I think it'll look really good. So we're gonna go ahead and try that out now. All right, now I just put a wet, even coat of this paint that they include in the kit on there. This will act as like kind of the adhesion surface for the flocking material, so you want to make sure you get a nice wet coat on that. And then I'm just going to start using this little applicator tube that they give you. It's filled with some of the material, and I'm going to start spraying this all over that and get it as even as I can. All right, so you can see that I've just laid down this flocking material. It is a little uneven right now, but that's just because it's kind of layered up. You want to make sure that you get everything completely covered, and then once you let the paint dry, that'll just hold on to the material that's going to stay, and then you'll kind of shake it off and get a lot of the excess off. But this little kit, I had plenty left. There's still a little bit in there, you can see, and then I still had about half this bag left. So there was plenty to do this whole dash pad. And then you can kind of see here how it comes out. It just comes out like that. And you just go over everything, make sure you've got everything completely covered. And then don't worry about the finish not looking perfect yet, because whenever you take the excess off the top, it'll kind of level itself out. So I'll get back to you guys whenever that's all dried up. All right, I let all that dry and blew off the extra. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It looks pretty good. I got the little vents and stuff popped back in as well, and it did cover all the cracks and everything. You can't tell that there was any cracks or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thrown back in the car. All right, so I just popped it in place. You literally just drop it in and push down on it. Now we've got the clip down here, right here, that we have to plug into the airbag. All right, I had to put the camera down to get it, but yeah, put that clip back in. Then you can kind of just tuck that up there, and then you can go ahead and put the glove backs back in. And then with the airbag in place, there are these two bolts that go back in. They go into the same spot that we took them out of last time. Just have the glove box hanging down, and then clip it onto the two pivot points, both here and right there. And then it'll snap on like that. And then you can go ahead and raise up the glove department. And then also remember that there's this tab that you have to snap back in place. And then with that in place, you might have to push in the sides to get these little clips up here in again. But with that in, your glove box should be good to go. And your airbag is back in. And then it's time to reconnect the negative battery cable. You just slide that over the post. And then be sure to tighten down this nut on here. And then double check that you've got that on there tight. You don't want that slipping off, and you want a good connection. And then you can put your battery cover back on. And then here's another look at what that dash looks like now that we have put it back in. It looks a lot better than it did whenever the cracks were all in it. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. All right, now your first startup might be a little weird. It might sound a little funny. It might stutter a little bit. That's just from the battery being disconnected. Mine was fine. It was a cold start, so it took a little bit to crank. It's like negative degrees out. But and then you'll also get that flashing light. Sometimes you'll get like a little steering wheel one. To get rid of that, you just go all the way to the left, go all the way to the right, and then that will reset that light for you. That just happens whenever the battery is disconnected. So anytime you have to replace the battery or anything like that, you'll have to do that just to reset the steering sensor. But other than that, you should be good to go. And if you have any questions, I do my best to answer them down in the comments below. Again, be careful whenever you're working on airbags, and hopefully this helped you.